Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Yoyo. My name is T. Welcome to the land of cicadas and typhoons. I'm so sorry, the wind noise, the cicada noise, it's going to be a loud one today, but we'll do our best to get through it together. Today we're going to be looking at another AceYo. This is a company I really like. They make super solid stuff, really nice and smooth stuff. I haven't had a chance to review this just yet. Today we're going to be taking a look at the AceYo Gravitation 2. So here we are taking a closer look at the AceYo Gravitation 2. The shape is pretty much a straight W. You've got the very small part inside here that's near the gap and no sense of a step up there. You go right down into the response. Then this really big rim that goes up here. It's pretty much the epitome of the modern W shape, as you can see. In the cup you have little cuts here. This is very similar in cup design and actually shape and everything to the original Gravitation. So if you'd like to see more about that, I've already made a video on that. And then you've got this finger spin dimple in here, and I believe this is a little bit deeper than the original Gravitation, if I'm not mistaken. At least it feels a little deeper. It feels a little bit more easy to access. The material is 6061 aluminum. The feel is very nice. It's a W shape, which aren't always the most comfortable in the hand, but I think because this one is glossy, and because it just, the way that this part in here is not too big, and the way that these rims are kind of rounded off, it's actually quite comfortable in the hand. And the look is very striking. A very smart design move here. They've left all the engravings out of the center here, leaving it perfectly open for finger spins, and a very nice clean design, sort of letting this fade speak for itself. Then inside here you've got the engraving well out of the way of any other kinds of tricks you'd want to do. On this side here you can see it says AceYo, the name of the company. You have this like arrow design here. Then you've got Gravitation here, and you got the AceYo spade here. And then you've got the same thing on the other side, AceYo, and then the Gravitation as well. Really cool sort of playing card, race car looking engraving here. AceYo is really crushing it when it comes to engravings and design. I think their design is pretty incredible. Not only that, you've got this glossiness, which I asked him about it because the original Gravitation is very matte, a very dry finish. So I asked him why he made this one glossy, and he said they don't always have to be matte. It's all about the aesthetics and the beauty of the yo-yo as well, and AceYo certainly knows what they're doing with aesthetics. And then on top of that, you've got this gorgeous fade, which is probably one of the best fades I've ever seen that I've ever had in my hand here. Goes from a pink to a purple to this kind of teal blue. It's incredible looking. You can see as I'm rotating it here, it just blends perfectly from one color to the next. It's simply gorgeous. Some parts of it here, like you can see the inside near the response, are sort of iridescent, kind of changing color, reflecting off of each side. Each side is reflecting off of the other, and it just shines and shimmers. It's totally gorgeous. And this is one of those yo-yos I don't mind that it's glossy, because it's absolutely gorgeous and it does a ton with the aesthetic. As I mentioned in my Hypocrisy Max L video, I received a package from AceYo with some yo-yos to take a look at. As I always say, Tokyo is not business. I don't make money on this. I don't ask for products or anything. This is my passion. It's just a passion project. I don't make any money on this. It's just for my own enjoyment. And so this was in that package that AceYo sent off to me. It had the Merker, this, and the Hypocrisy Max L. And now I played the original Gravitation, as I mentioned before. I've got a video on that. You can check that out if you'd like. I received that in a trade from someone, so that was a surprisingly solid yo-yo. Absolutely smooth, really good spinner, really powerful feeling, with a kind of interesting finger spin design that I don't think worked perfectly well, but I feel like this one kind of fixes the problems that had. Now besides that, this is pretty much a sequel to the Gravitation. So I've seen this called the Gravitation 2 in some places. I've seen this called just the Gravitation in other places, so it kind of depends on where you find it, where you're buying it. It kind of depends on those factors what people tend to call it. But in any case, I consider this the Gravitation 2 because of the different gloss, because I think that the finger spin design in here feels different. I'm not sure if it is, but it does feel different. The new engraving and everything like that, it feels like a different yo-yo to me. But at the same time, you have the very similar design and the identical shape and things like that. As for playability of the Gravitation 2, this thing plays just as well as the original Gravitation. If you remember my video on that, I really liked the Gravitation. I think it was a great entry to kind of start checking out AceYo stuff. It's a really solid performer, and this is no exception. This is a very solid performer. It spins very well. It feels like it has a pretty long spin time to it. It spins extremely smooth, just like all of AceYo stuff. I haven't found a hint of vibe on any of their products, which is incredible because most of these retail from $30 to $50. Like, their bimetals are more expensive, but most of their stuff is like $30 to $60. So it's incredible that they're able to get this level of smoothness on such a cost-effective yo-yo. As far as how it plays on the string, you know, the shape is nice for whips and slacks. You know, it's not too narrow. It's easy to get your string in there. Landing on the string is real soft. One thing I will say about this is that it does feel a little bit heavy. When you first throw it out, there is a little bit of a thud. Now, I'm not sure if that's because it's heavy, because it doesn't feel particularly heavy. Like when you're holding it, it feels nice and light. And when you're actually playing it, it is maneuverable. But sometimes when you throw it out, especially if you're throwing it a little bit harder, you can sometimes be surprised. Like, it does have presence at the end of the string. Definitely not a rock or anything like that. It does not feel like that at all. But if you're used to playing lighter yo-yos, this one's got a little bit more presence on the string than you might be expecting. You're not going to get fantastic grinds on this because it is glossy, as I mentioned, which is really super cool looking. It's nice to have glossy yo-yos once in a while, but you don't really get good finger grinds on it. If you kind of hold the string and you're kind of maneuvering the grind on your finger, you can get them, but otherwise they're pretty hard to get. Finger spins are a lot easier on this. I don't know why that is. I'm not sure if this is actually deeper than the original Gravitation's finger spin dimple. It feels deeper to me, I don't know. But because of the glossiness, because of the smooth nature of this, I thought it was actually going to be more difficult to get finger spins, but I'm finding it actually a lot easier if you have a nail. So if you're just using your skin to hit this, it's gonna just go crazy. If you've got any sense of a nail though, a fingernail, and you kind of curve your finger in like that, or you do finger spins like this, and you're bouncing it off the nail, it's butter smooth, and it's much easier to catch finger spin on this than on the original, I find, as long as you've got any sense of a nail. They maintain for a very long time. It's totally smooth while it's spinning. So I really prefer finger spins on the Gravitation 2 over the original. But it does feel like a different yo-yo, and part of that is the glossiness. It does give you a really different hand feel. It gives you a little bit more of a softer catch, I feel, just because it is like softer in the hand material-wise. The finger spins are a lot better if that's something that you're into. I love the black with the splash on the original Gravitation, but this fade is so beautiful. I would get it just for this color. Even if it's just sitting on your shelf, this thing is just gorgeous. And when it spins, it blends into this really nice soft purple. So it's an aesthetically gorgeous yo-yo. As for pros and cons of the Gravitation 2, pros, as I said, this color is spectacular. I think that's probably the most striking thing about this. The blue to the purple to the pink fade it's breathtaking, especially in person when I'm looking at it right now. It's really amazing looking. I like that the engraving is out of the way. It's on the side here, so you're not going to get it in grinds, you're not going to get it in finger spins or anything like that. It's still there and it's visible, but it's totally out of the way. The price, this thing is just as cost effective as the original Gravitation was. So, you know, AceYo is really, as I said, crushing it with their ability to make really good yo-yos and make them real cheap and give them to you really cheap. I think this is a really solid performer for where it's priced. It's another one of those yo-yos that, if there's a lot of really expensive yo-yos coming out, and you know, you've got your boutique companies and all that, and they're putting out really great stuff too, but it's very nice to be able to like take something that is not so expensive, that plays extremely well. But when you have something that is beautiful and yet still cost effective and has a high performance, I feel like a little bit more secure in taking this out and playing with it outside. As for cons, there's nothing too major with this. It is glossy, like I mentioned. I'm a huge fan of finger grinds, so that is kind of an issue with me. I really like doing finger grind tricks, and not being able to do finger grinds consistently, or you know, sometimes I forget and I just try to go into a finger grind and I'm like, oh yeah, this thing doesn't do that. That's kind of sometimes bothersome, but if you're not into finger grinds at all, then it's not going to really be a big deal to you. And like I said, if you're kind of holding the string with one hand and balancing it and kind of holding it taut, you can still get them. And I guess the other thing is like the finger spins are still not the easiest to get. It still will skip around unless you have a nail, unless you're really like dedicated to getting a finger spin. But once you get them, they're nice and solid and they last a long time. And it's definitely easier than the original. The response is not the most reliable, at least when I first got it. So you would either want to change the pads, but I would just use a thicker string, and that seemed to totally fix the problem. So put a thicker string in there and you're gonna have a really, really perfect response. It's just perfect now. But yeah, I think AceYo's pretty awesome. I am just kind of flabbergasted at how they're putting these stuff out that's super inexpensive, that is super high performing, that looks amazing. Their engravings are just amazing. All the engravings they put out on the faces of their yo-yos, they're so unique and you don't see anything like it on the market. And it's also cool, like the farther you go back into AceYo's history and the more yo-yos they see that they put out, like they put out some really cool designs, and they put out some designs that other companies are now kind of taking and making their own too. So they were pretty innovative in the yo-yo community, and I'm surprised that more people don't know that or aren't aware of the fact that AceYo is doing a lot of cool stuff. In some cases they did it before other companies too, so good for you, AceYo. You keep going at it. Alright, thank you so much, boys and girls, for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave me a like, a comment, a subscription. I'd really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to be going to a once-a-week format for the time being here. If I have some extra videos in the queue, I might throw up an extra video in the middle of the week or something like that, but don't pin your hopes on it. And sorry, I know like the wind is really bad. We've got a typhoon coming, and the cicadas are terrible, but that's just summertime here. There's nothing I can do about it. But in a few weeks, we'll be back to nice, quiet reviews again, I promise. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, have a nice day, and sayonara.